Hey, folks, happy January 2021. We made it. This, once again, a regroup of all of the original starters for lighting a candle, the world that works. And we're going to have a conversation today that none of us knows what's coming. And that's kind of good because 2021, we really don't know what's coming at all. Even. All of that said it's really about being powerful in the moments, whatever is going on, to be empowered and be able to be in action and work on having the life that you love and the life that you want. So with that said, we'll quickly go around and do introductions. Of course, I'm Bill Carell, and to my immediate right on the screen is Shelley.
Hi.
And then Lisa. And then
Ken. Hello all.
And last but not least, she's looking much like a telephone handset today. That would be Vanessa.
So, yes, hello. I kind of like it because it's got a big smile, or kind of appears like a smile. So I'm smiling at you.
It's kind of what it reminds me of. If you experience a partial moon in Connecticut and then experience a partial moon down in Florida, it goes from being almost upright to almost being like the top of a teacup, where you could fill it with water.
Wow, that's cool.
It's kind of interesting.
That is cool.
All right, so let's begin. Let's say today, more than ever, candles need to be lit. And if each of us can kind of go in turn and talk about what you think the first and most important candle might be for 2021, to heal this world and this country, whatever else you think will bring empowerment to people that are watching and listening. Does that work for you? What's the first candle, Kelly?
Progress. Progress over perfection. Moving forward. And really acknowledging, right? I think the acknowledgement candle. And I'm going to kind of even, kind of go a step further, that we do need to light candles, but I think they need to be very bright candles, and different candles to really begin to heal what we have felt just even in these first 5 days. My staff, we were like, we just need to make sure that we keep moving forward, make progress, positivity, and all that other stuff we're going to have to deal with as well. How it affects our world, how it affects each day, really not knowing what you're waking up to, but and knowing from where you are, whether that's 10 steps behind where you were yesterday, you still have to move forward.
Yep.
And even with businesses, same thing. So that's kind of my motto, and a lot of my colleagues, we talked about it, that we just need to be able to create and help people move forward and progress, whether it's a baby step or leaps and bounds. So that's where I'm starting.
That's great. Shelley, how about you? Lisa, how about you? It's been such a long time.
Well, I got a new hairdo, so we might look a little like.
Can I tell you, I'm loving on that hairdo. That's a really great hairdo.
Oh,
that was so 2020, Bill.
Thank you.
Really, what now, right? What next?
What for myself personally, and to expand it out into the world, is more effective communication, and probably enlightened communication too, because I need to be able to have, like Vanessa, those hard conversations, but backed up with information that's helpful and useful to the other person, even if we don't agree. So communication is my big goal for 2021.
Interesting. Have you been speaking with many people, Lisa?
Well, see, I've got a great arena right in my own immediate family. So it starts there. And if I can just get a little wedge in there somehow, sometimes it gives me hope for other things.
Yeah.
So
for many people, family is the hardest conversation
Mhm.
because there's so much history, and almost all of that history, if you're not careful, can get dragged into the moment now, and visceral reactions to what isn't being said right now, but may seem like it's what was said before. So you have a lot of different potential things to look out for, little landmines.
I was listening to a call or webinar, whatever you want to call it, and they were talking about biological family versus evolutionary family. So the ones that you get to pick are your evolutionary family, sort of, and that they're just as important. But the end result was like you can definitely almost always be more yourself with your evolutionary family, because you're not restricted by what your perceived perceptions of your family members will have of you, or if you express your true self, kind of thing. So communication in both areas.
It's kind of like a Mobius loop. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is, but 8-track tapes had no beginning, middle, or end. It was just a continuous loop that once it got to the end, it would continue playing. And sometimes relationships and family conversations are Mobius loops. You have to kind of cut the tape to start and say, time out. How about we have a new conversation from this point forward? And if they're not willing to play, then maybe you shouldn't have the conversation. You never can tell. I'm speaking from experience here. This is not necessarily going on in your, but, anyhow. Anything else?
I'm good.
You are, and it's really, really wonderful to have you here. Mr. Ken.
Howdy. What am I gonna say?
We're waiting.
With bated breath, right?
Yes.
So, well, my focus, and it started actually in intensely in a few months ago, but I think what would be helpful is just to really empower, inspire, and encourage ourselves and everyone else to fill themselves up with the very best of themselves until it spills over onto the rest of us. Mm-hmm. And just, look at yourself, look at your light, the amazing contribution that you have to give to the world. And just, we've all experienced it. We've all been in that place where we have so much abundance of something, excitement, love, laughter, or the opposite side of the coin, hate, anger, frustration, and it blows up out of us. It goes everywhere. So if we just focus on bringing the things that add value to those around us, and we start from that point, fill ourselves up with that, and that's what I'm focusing on, in myself and everyone in my circle, and just talking about it constantly. And, and through all of this chaos, there's not one person, no matter how dark they may seem, who doesn't have some light in them somewhere. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just a little dimmer. So, it's literally the candles that you're talking about, light it up so bright that you almost can't look at it without help anymore,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Be the oxygen in the room and increase,
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with Stephanie on almost a daily basis?
Yeah, we've the group, you mean?
Yes.
We've got it's called the Questers Way Collective. It's just a Facebook group. And we did a 5-day challenge and it's all just people who are looking to be their best selves in service to that benefiting everyone around them. We actually just started a 30-day course on it on Monday. And already, we're 3 days in and it's like light bulbs going off with the people that are doing that part of it. But it's just really just a place where you go in the group and there's smiling faces, and there are people that even when things are difficult, they're leading with their belief that through our own personal actions and choices, we can make it better. And we don't have to change anyone else's mind. We don't have to fight. We don't have to, debate over what got us here. We're just focused on being our best selves, period. That's it. And we're having a lot of fun doing it. It's, it's been pretty cool. It's not a big group yet, but it is already international. We've got people from Australia and England, and the funny thing is as much as everyone is stressed over the way we are in the US right now, it's no different for anyone else. Every person we're talking to in every country, on some level, they're experiencing these same things. So we just committed to choosing to be a light as best we can, and also recognizing the fact that we're human and sometimes we really suck at that. And that's okay. You know? Yeah. So that's it. That's what it is.
I really like that whole notion of being a being in training, you know?
Yeah.
There's only, you know, a couple of guys in the history of the world that ever totally had it figured out, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that, because that's just yesterday, like the big thing everyone's focused on for the new year is move. So we've been talking about that a lot. Yeah. And, you know, and we were talking about the fact that really all it takes is just banking minutes, you know, and just if it's 10 minutes of some kind of exercise a day, that's better than not, you know, and maybe it's not as good as the hour you want, but it's still 10 minutes. And in the end, those 10 minutes accumulate, and your immune system will be better, your energy levels will be better, you'll be healthier, you're less likely to get sick. And so just make the deposits in advance. So when the crisis comes up, when the weather systems get rough, you've already made some deposits that have been paying interest on a daily basis. And some days will be better than others when it comes to that. And that's okay. You know, take the pressure off in that sense and put the effort into making little deposits. And so that's what we're doing, is sharing ideas of what that looks like for us and what's helped us lower the resistance to making the choices that we've committed to making in our lives when things get difficult, and all that kind of stuff.
That's great. And the whole key to everything, no matter what initiative you're talking about, remembering, you know?
Yeah.
Having that opportunity to be reminded of a promise that you made to yourself, because spoken words disappear. So there are people that I know that if you walk into their home, it's kind of appalling, all the sticky notes they have all over the place, you know? It's like in the mirror in the bedroom, the mirror in the bathroom, you know, where the clothes are, and all of these things that are they're quite powerful in terms of returning you to the place where you felt empowerment to make a bold statement about how you want your life to go, you know? And having friends around that are engaged in that and hear what you have to say, you're creating sticky notes with them as well.
Yeah. It's a cool thing. And the other thing that's been interesting is everyone's choosing kind of 3 paths on a daily basis. And, you know, there's a gentle path where it's all just about noticing. You don't have to do anything, just notice your mindset, notice how people are interacting and responding, whether it's you or someone else. And then there's the balance path where they're noticing and they're tracking. So like maybe writing some things down, making some notes, you know, like starting to do a little manifesting. And then there's the accelerated, and these are the ones that want to take action. They're actively engaged in transformation. And it's funny because we've been using it as shorthand, and some days you wake up and you're tired and you're like, you know what, today is not an acceleration day. Today's the gentle path. I'm just going to kind of let my mind be open and aware and give myself permission not to do something about it. You know, and the entrepreneurial word you'd hear all the time: hustle, grind, grow, you know, all that kind of stuff. You suck if you're not doing it, you know, every day. And it's like, that's not real life. You know, it's a long haul. So sometimes you can't slack too much, but you know, if you just make a choice each day as to what path fits for you, and then just, you know, let that, you know, give yourself the ability to course correct. You know, that's what we're talking about, being navigators of our own lives, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. It starts with empowering self-talk. And when you're a dictator or using a fear-based method, it doesn't work any better, you know, with motivating yourself to do something than if somebody else were standing there beating you with a stick, you know?
Yeah.
You can find these ways to make choices as opposed to making yourself bad and wrong for not executing a choice you made. there's always a chance to make a new choice, every moment.
Well, isn't it funny how, I don't know about you guys, but I think I've learned the most personally from the bad choices I've made. It's like that gives you some feedback, whereas the good choices a lot of times can seduce you into thinking that you've figured something out, and then you start believing your own press releases, and that gets you in bigger trouble, so, why not give yourself permission and other people permission to be brave enough to go for it, make a choice in the moment, but then also be self-aware enough to recognize when you screwed it up and have that window and mirror maturity where you look at yourself and say, yeah, it's not anyone else's fault but mine, and even if there were situations that were beyond my control, it's still my choice, even if I was misled or misinformed, and so now I have the opportunity to do something about it. So yeah, it's interesting.
The learning curve does not equate to success. You have to fail in order to learn something. I mean, businesses all the time, they're having great success, and it's kind of like, yeah, but what have you learned? They don't know what they haven't learned because they haven't failed. So it's a very true of what you were saying.
My failures in business over the last 5 years are the things that are going to allow us to take it to scale. We are going to have 100 locations in the next decade, and that would not have happened if all the mistakes weren't made and hadn't gotten my nose bloodied so many times. I totally agree.
Are you all Dean Martin fans by any chance? One of my favorite Facebook memes is Dean Martin looking at the camera and saying, "Good choice." You know where that comes from? Experience. And you know where experience comes from? Bad choice.
That's perfect.
So if you want to grow like a weed, it's the empowering thing is to look for the opportunity to fail and learn from it, And as a really great man once said, if you lose, don't lose the lesson. Always look to see and always look to grow from whatever new empirical evidence that you have for what worked and what didn't work. And that's really one of the neat things that I learned back in the 1990s was instead of spending a lot of time being concerned about an expectation that wasn't met or some sort of a breakdown or something, just a simple little, that didn't work. Okay, now what's missing? What else is needed? Let's do it again. And the more times you can do that, in a day or in a week or in a month, the more progress you make towards what it is that you're becoming.
And I've been reading a lot of books lately it's to be brave, which means to take risks in order to fail, so bravery, especially in the face of today's world, is definitely called for.
Yep.
When Ken said encouragement earlier, that's a very, very powerful, pal to empowerment. Okay. If you encourage someone is to bring them to notice their own courage in a situation to where they're then free to act where they might have been stopped before. So in terms of what we can bring for each other, I thought that was great, Ken. Vanessa, would you like to go next?
Oh my goodness. Do I have anything to add after this wonderful conversation? Everybody heard my else's contribution. Actually, yeah, no, I'm glad I'm going last year because I feel like we could just take this full circle. What you were just talking about it reminds me of with the succeeding with failing, or there is no success without failure. And I'm thinking of John Maxwell's book. Got so many, but one of them is one of the recent ones. I think it's called "Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn."
That is correct.
On the cover, it deliberately has the lose is crossed out and it says you learn. So, and I think that I think that no matter anytime it takes courage to go out there and fail and be rejected. And I should know, I'm a freelance writer, so rejection happens all the time. But you gain confidence, and I think, and one of the greatest things is when you gain that bravery, as Lisa was saying, to be able to and give someone else courage, as Bill was saying, you encourage them, which then gives them empowerment to go out and keep trying and just realize that they're, you never look back and see. I mean, the worst thing is to look back and say, gee, I never tried. And then to really ask yourself at the end of the day, I didn't try because I was afraid of failing, Or then there's even that beautiful, which this has always puzzled me, the fear of success, which is even, well, I think you have to reach a certain place where then you can fear success, where you start seeing things move forward, and then we have all these other psychological tactics like resistance that's coming into play. But anyway, so that's my contribution with what you were just talking about. And the other thing is really just, Bill, you started out the conversation asking us what we were looking at, how, what candle we could light, especially going forward into this new year. And 2020, everyone's saying resilience is the big name for, that's the big word for 2020. We all learned how to be resilient, and in a lot of cases that's true. But we also learned a lot of negative things, like how to feel, more afraid, how to have less courage, how to be less afraid, and we also learned that yes, we can thrive, or well, I'll say we can survive. I don't know if we forgot that we can still thrive, but we can, or maybe it's questionable now, but we can survive in uncertainty and adversity. Certainly, we made it, right? We're in 2021. But we got a real good taste of what it's like to have such uncertainty literally every day, every minute of our lives. So going into this new year, we have, we've never had more uncertainty. And I think that's also, Bill, what you started out the conversation with.
Yes.
Than what we do this year. So just going along, I agree with what all of you said. Shelley, you said, shine your light. I think Ken, you said that as well. Lisa, you said, learning to have more effective communication. That all goes under the same umbrella, because if we're shining our light, we're doing it through effective communication. We're taking a step back and taking the time to learn what effective communication really is. Read my article. No. In the Ethics magazine in November issue. Anyway, but no, but yeah, shining our light. This world is only getting more and more and more dark, and it's being encroached by fear and enveloped by fear, and all the more reason to just hold your little candle and protect it. And what is that expression? You can be the candle or be the light that reflects it. I think we better all just be candles, like just go out and get your candle and get your wick and get it lit. Find something that really lights you on fire. And it could be spiritually, it could be that's really helped, and it could be starting a new Facebook group where you're helping people all over the world. Ken, that's a wonderful thing you're doing with this Facebook group, and I'm so glad you're finding so much success with it already. And also, like you're saying, the world's in the same boat. People in those Facebook groups, they're talking about, from other countries, they're saying, hey guys, we sympathize with you guys in the US, but we can also empathize because we're going through the same sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing like building, connection with everyone being in the same boat, but just the same, it can be harder to not, transfer the fear from one person to the other. So.
Yeah, you can either have light candles, or you can walk around the world with a snuffer.
Yeah, or carry a torch.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about the conversation is two things that come to mind, Vanessa. The first one is where's your attention? If you're, if we listen to what everyone has said, the attention is about being more this or more that, but in the interpersonal relationship domain, if the attention is on personal growth, that's where the beginning of whatever sentence is going to come out of your mouth is starting from. If your attention is on personal growth through growing others, now you've got a conversation that's much more rich and many more opportunities to fail and succeed,
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm thinking about, all of the noticing, which this is one of the first things that you learn when you start thinking in terms of the so-called self-developmental path, is that whole concept of listening to yourself listen.
Mm-hmm.
And for people that have gone through intense training, what we realize is the thoughts that we are having, excuse me, one second. So that was very important, but this is much more important. So if you go through a thoughtful process of training yourself to be aware, not necessarily of your thoughts that can rule your day, that you will respond to your thoughts before you'll respond to the environment for most people. And where they learn more about themselves is by responding to their environment and not responding to what they think they already know. Does that make sense? So the whole idea of where your attention is in 2021, our attention, maybe we've got a little bit more to look forward to than just staying alive.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that I have talked with are saying, I don't understand why it's going to take so long, for the vaccine to get rolled out, and get to the people who actually need it. Why are we talking second and third quarter to get most of the people in the United States, inoculated? And the vaccine is something that we worked very, very hard to try to believe that it could happen. And then it did happen. And now here we are, and it's been almost 60 days, with very little to show for it. If anybody has called their local hospital, they don't have a clue. All they know is they're not going to be the ones that are vaccinating people. The state government has not rolled out its plan yet. So that's one thing that you could look for, and your immediate response is there something wrong here? Or you can say, how can we get busy and help them with this? What kind of feedback can we give them? What kind of ideas can we give them that would allow them to get past the planning stages during the month of January and actually start, vaccinating people that are in nursing homes, vaccinating people that are high risk in hospitals. My buddy has been in the hospital for 5 weeks. He's getting his vaccine today. He's getting his vaccine today. There were people who were healthcare providers that received their vaccine 3 weeks ago. So that's kind of like an interesting thing, as opposed to there's something wrong here. What's missing? It doesn't seem to be working. People are still passing away at an alarming rate on a daily basis. And how do we pull together here? How do we create leadership in an area where it seems like we're living with whatever happens? That sort of thinking. And that's audacious, because for Bill Carell to sit in his kitchen and say, what's missing that we might be able to talk to some people and say, look, whatever needs to be done, we need to do that.
I think the world is in that place right now, right? And to break it down, Ken kind of, you hit it right on, because I truly believe, and again, this quote's going to be written on a sticky and in front of me. We're humans, and sometimes we suck at it. Yeah, we do.
That was a pretty good quote.
I like that one too. Yeah.
So,
I should write that down too.
We get so centered with ourselves, right? That, how I'm feeling, what do I need to do? And sometimes we need to take that gentle path, right? That Ken was talking about, and just kind of recenter ourselves. But really, the world needs to come together outside of each one of us. And from a bigger perspective, and Bill, to you, like, what do we need to do as a collective whole to make something move forward, right? And we've been so divided and segmented that bringing that back together is going to take time. There was division when all this started, and I being a little closer to the government and not liking it all the time. Connecticut in general, I think is really, we're one of the front runners. It may not be moving as fast as we want it to, but I tell you, there are some states that are so far behind us that it's sad, and it's only because of the environment that state has, and those government officials, and the people that are supporting, and so forth and so on. But it's how do we bring structure to some of that, right? And to Ken is like, structure is going to happen, but bringing that encouragement and that energy from a place of overflowing what we have, so that it does spill, and everybody then starts thinking about their neighbor. Like, I have so much to give. My neighbor now has so much to, and it just kind of keeps flowing. And it's the best part of you. And then, when it's not, then we learn from that. So this whole conversation, in my opinion, is just, it is full circle, Vanessa. All these pieces and parts cannot stand alone. Right? And in some fashion, it's like the cogs on a bike, right? That they all have to move in synchronicity and have to click together. Maybe not as perfect as we think they should, but they have to touch. They've got to have the touch points. And it's inspiring to hear, and I'm going to put it out there after yesterday's, kind of upheaval, like, we have a mind of where we can kind of look at that and get moments, right? Those were moments that were very, just profoundly sad, right? And where we as a nation have gone. But those were moments. Some people are going to take that and they're going to carry that forward for years, right? So how do we kind of move through those moments and bring learning or some type of sense and a silver lining through all of that, right? It's the win or learn. But I wanted to touch upon moments, because you can have a bad moment and it can go on for a couple hours, but humans, again, here we go. We have one bad moment in a day and it ruins our day, right? This is where we suck as humans part. Instead of just, hey, that was one bad moment. There's, if there's something to learn from it, great. If not, okay, let's just put that aside and move on or come back to it. So, moments in time can change the world, and they have, but they are moments. They don't need to be like carried on for years and years and years into a civil war, into any type of hatred. They just need to be put where they are a lesson, right? They're a lesson, and we learn. And okay, I don't know how we kind of compute that to, the whole of humanity, but lighting one candle at a time is where you start.
Yes, and being willing to stand there not knowing is where the courage comes. It's where the empowerment comes. When you're willing to fully address something that you're not up to the task on, you're probably working on the right thing in your life. With that said, we are to the top of our half hour, and Shelley, that was brilliant. I suggest that we pick it up on the other side from this business of sucking at being humans. I think there might be some interest. Y'all stick around and we'll be back in a few, okay?
Bye.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, A World That Works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.